what was the first couple years like for you in the business? Did you just hit the ground running and have that success, or was it the slow and painful process of just trying to figure it out? I mean, I'm assuming it was probably good because you had a mentor, right? But let's talk talk
Yeah.
talk about the first couple years.
So, I mean, I went head first into the deep end of the pool. I mean, because now I went from steady income to no income, and now I've
Yeah.
got to waste. Oh, sorry. I get to spend a month in real estate school, so I got that, and I
Yeah.
legally can't do anything except train. I can't. Lowell took me on some appointments with him, so I got to go see my first showing. I got to go see my first listing appointment, and all the while I'm just a fly on the wall. And he would just say, "Hey, this
Yeah.
is Glenn. He's new, and just don't worry about him." But then there was, of course, all the car conversations, with him and time in the
Mhm.
office, and they were very organized about certain things, but with technology, they were not so much. And I love
Mhm.
technology, so I got to spend time working on their CRM. They had what was that called? Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's not around anymore. It was like Agent Office or something like that. And it was
Okay.
remember probably before you. But anyways, way back like before Top Producer and all those, and even all the 5,000 ones that are out now.
When I when
There
I
weren't
when
very
I
many
got
back
in
then.
top yeah, when I got in, top producer was like the
It was
one
the
in
it
the very
was.
beginning, and then
Yeah.
yeah.
So we used something called Agent Office, which was at the time I thought was a Remax product, but it was quite honestly, it was they just branded it for Remax for us. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But it was good, and so I learned how to use a CRM, and I had done that before in my old life as a salesperson. You've got to keep track of your people. You
Yeah.
can't keep it all on little note cards the rest of your life. So, so there was that, and I got to learn how to contracts and all that stuff. I'm getting all this stuff from real estate school, and then I'm going in and shadowing as much as I can on my time off, and just like rocketing forward. Um, but once I got licensed, they didn't want to work with buyers. That was very clear. It was Bull and
Mhm.
his wife that were running it. And we had an admin, and they had like a part-time buyer's agent. And she left shortly after I got there. Probably saw the writing on the wall. I don't really understand that whole relationship, but whatever.
Sure.
So they gave me all their buyer leads, all of them.
Yeah.
They're just like they would they would put them in this bank bag. They were all handwritten. Just a phone number. That's it. That's all I got. So I got a phone number, and then they would make this big deal every morning. Well, here's your they put them in a bank bag, right? Because
Yeah.
here's your money, right?
Go get your
But
money.
right. So and there wasn't a ton of here's what to do with these. It was, you're a sales guy, figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, then a few months later, they were students of Craig Proctor. I don't know if you know that guy
Mhm.
up in Canada.
Mhm.
So I got to go to my first like he was having a thing up in Toronto, so I went to it. Like I got
Yeah.
a and he had a whole section with another agent. It was all about it was a guy named Brian Moses from a Cola Banker, and he was all about buyer agency and now I've got a formula, right? Just like the old
Yeah.
retail days. Now I've got a step by step thing I can follow, and that helped me tremendously because now I can. Okay, now I see where this
Yeah.
train's going, and I just became relentless about cold. I mean, they called them. They weren't cold calls. They were cold calls, buddy. These were
Yeah.
these were these were people that called one of those info centers, and it says right in the ad, you won't talk to an agent, right? Right
Yeah.
on the ad is a big red banner.
Yeah.
Well, guess who's calling them the next morning, right? This guy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so 9 times out of 10, it was terrible. Like I'd call, what are you calling me for? And it's like I have to figure out another way in. And one day I got back from lunch and there was a message on my desk that said, Bill, somebody called and had a phone number, no address. It was a signed call,
Yeah.
but so I call the guy. I'm like, hey, this is Glenn from Remax. And he's like, yeah. I said, I don't know. It says here you called about a house. He's like, I don't know, dude. I've called about so many houses. Honestly, I don't know. This is one of my secrets, by the way. And I said, "Well, what are you looking for?" Right? And the light goes off. So now every one of these calls I make, I'm just like, I don't know. I had a message you called about a house. They're like,
Yeah.
"Oh." And honestly, most people do that. They call so many places. If they're not working with a dedicated buyer's agent, they don't know who they called. They have no clue,
Yeah.
and they're just happy to have somebody sort of clear the fog for them. So that opened up my business. I did very, very well after that. I did that for 2 or 3 years. And the whole time I was studying to get my broker's license. So
So that would have been early
I did that.
2000s.
2000, 2001, 2002. Yep.
So I know Brian Moses because my coaching program that I started with was Kinder Reese,
Hmm.
and then it became NAEA with Jay Kinder and Mike Reese, and Jay was a
Yep.
from Craig Proctor, and
Yep.
Brian, and then Brian, he knows Brian Moses, and I actually got to hear him speak several times at some of those conferences, and one of Brian Moses's buyers agents that he used to have is Wally Bressler.
Yep. I know
And
Wally.
he Wally is how, one of the coaches that I had very early in my career in 2011, 2012, 2013. And still to this
Small
day,
world.
I we teach the NAEA, buyer scripts, seller scripts, all that stuff. So I'm right there with you.
So
It's crazy how a small
right
world that is.
after, right after that first Toronto seminar, because I went 3 times. Right after the first one, Brian, he was still a Coldwell Banker. I don't know if he still is or not,
Yeah.
but he was still with them at the time, and he was just kind of getting his legs under him as a coach. And Craig Proctor was kind of bringing him along, and so Brian had his own seminar right after that, a couple months
Mm,
later in Nashua, New Hampshire, and I flew out to that. I got to
yeah.
tell you, I'm always a hound for good coaching. If I can get it, and even no matter what it costs me, no matter how much I got to rack up the credit cards, whatever I have to do, because I know I'll make it back. I believe I'm investing in me.
Yeah.
So I go out
Yeah.
and I got to spend a lot of time one on one with the guy, just between sessions and things like that. And he's one of the most genuine, giving type people you'll ever meet. But I don't know what he's doing now. I've lost track of him. I know he's still coaching, but
I was gonna say he's still doing coaching, and the one thing about Brian is you can never tell him that he can't accomplish something. Have you heard
amen to
all of the
that.
wild stories? Of, like,
Oh yeah, the Letterman stuff and the
yeah,
what he got on the Letterman show. I'm sure you've heard that story. And
yeah,
then
yeah,
just in general, like the whole problem with the IRS. I mean, it's all part of his origin story. It's a great story, and it's all real. He's
yeah,
got the pictures of all the stuff, and yeah, he was very inspiring. Um,
yeah,
and what's funny, and we'll circle back to this, is the plane ride out to that planted a seed that bore fruit about 3 years ago. This
yeah.
was
Wow.
20 years ago. That
Yeah,
plane ride, I'm telling you, that plane ride changed my life. I just didn't know it at the time.
yeah.
But
Lead me up to kind of your real estate career, right? After a couple years, you said you're working towards your
yep.
broker's license. Lead me up to kind of like present day.
So I got my broker's license, and I assumed that we were on track. That Lowell and I were gonna, have some. Well, let's just say it didn't work out. So he and I had different versions of what the future looks like. And for any of you who are thinking of assuming someone else's business, whether it's in real estate or their shoe repair, but whatever it is they're doing, if they're bringing you on to apprentice, I'm going to implore you, go ahead and just hammer out the details now. You can change them later, but I will tell you, Lowell and I had such different expectations. Neither one of us was wrong, or both of us were wrong. I don't know how you want to look at it.
Right, right.
Um, he was a great mentor to me. And but as far as this whole how's this going to work out, we had vastly different ideas, and we never talked about them. So a
Mm,
bad on both of us. So and unfortunately, it ended up leading to some pretty dynamic conflict the last
sure.
few months I was there, because once I got my broker's license, I was free to do something else. So of course, I'm sure I hit the pedal pretty hard, and he was probably like, where is this coming from? I'm like, let's go, let's go.
Right.
And so I ended up leaving there. I started my own brokerage at the time. I opened a Help You Sell office up in Lima, Ohio in 2003.
Mm,
And then I opened a follow up Help You Sell office in Findlay the next year. And just was recruiting agents, and it was flat fee, early flat fee stuff. I mean, they've been around since the 70s, um,
sure.
we were selling homes for, that was my whole ad pitch, was I'll sell your home for 1950. I mean, that was it. And
Yeah,
that was it. That really was my whole ad pitch, by the
yeah,
way. And I had
yeah.
billboards and signs and ads and mailers, and I learned a lot about marketing during that process. Help You Sell did a good job of making sure we understood not only the value, but the balance act of
Sure.
marketing. Took whatever I learned from Remax with me, and then just tried to make my own, blaze my own trail. And I did that for, 2 or 3 years. Um, got rid of the franchise, got a divorce, just needed to calm down for a little bit, and then but stuck with flat fee. Really enjoyed flat fee, and just sort of plodded along. And occasionally I'd take a job, do stuff. Just this is a grinding business, and
Yeah.
when you have kids and things like that, there's times when you got to face reality, and that those times happened. I never closed the brokerage, but
Yeah.
fortunately, a buddy of mine who's still with me, he wanted to do property management, didn't have a broker's license. So anytime I was dormant, he was still rolling with
Yeah.
his property management, and that kept my license going, kept the brokerage alive, and I do deals here and there. And then I got more and more serious as the years went on. I got back heavier and heavier, and eventually just this is all I do. And then stop me if I go too fast. But in 2018, um, I decided I wanted to go virtual, 100% virtual. Um, Not that I don't love meeting buyers and sellers, but there's only so much geography one person can cover in a given week.
Yeah.
And I like this. I like what we're doing here. This is what I do now. So, uh,
Yeah.
to my knowledge, nobody around me was doing it, and nobody was doing it in flat fee. So I took what I was doing at Help You Sell, which is helping sellers sell, and getting them into the MLS and all that stuff. And of course, the advent of limited service had come along in '06, so that helped me out quite a bit. I was able to do some other stuff, but I just in 2018 just decided I want to travel, and I want to be able to work from anywhere. And so we went full on, and I did lose some clients. Some were just like
Sure.
some long term, like investor type clients were just like, no, I need the belly to belly. I need the face to face.
Yeah.
Okay, but guess what? I got new clients, and
Yep.
shortly after that move, we went statewide. I joined 11 boards, something like that. A bunch of different. I'm MLS coverage in every
Yeah.
county of Ohio now. And then from there, it's been a wild ride. We moved to Puerto Rico in 2020 full time,
Oh, awesome.
um, and I got to tell you, that's part of that plane ride. Is I met this old couple who was just all about travel, see the world. Don't ever let your job, your bank account, anything. Don't ever let anything hold you back from seeing this world, because by the time you get our age, he's got an oxygen mask. He's like, "You're too old.
Mm,
You're too old to enjoy it." You know. So I'm telling you right now, do it. Go see the world now.
yeah.
And that has always stuck with me. So when we had the chance to, now we're virtual. I'm freezing my tail off in another beautiful Ohio winter, and we were visiting Puerto Rico just for vacation, my wife and I, and we're just like, "Yeah, maybe we should buy an Airbnb here." Just like, well, one thing led to another, and we found our dream home, and we bought it, and we just now we live here most of the year, not the whole year, but most of the year we're here quite a
Yeah.
bit. But yeah,
There's a lot of agents that I know from EXP that live in Puerto Rico. Just
hmm
the tax benefits and all of those things
hmm
from that standpoint.
didn't
So
even know about that. I didn't even know about that when I moved here. I met a guy who's now he's now my attorney, but I met him like
yeah.
at like a food truck or something, and we're BSing. He's like, "Well, you probably moved here for the tax benefits." I'm like, "I moved here for the weather, pal." And he's like, "You are an idiot." So yeah, he introduced me to all of that. But yeah.
So when you just